In a bustling city where neon lights barely mask the struggles of ordinary people, a desperate man carries a small child home through dusty streets, dreaming of nothing more than a warm meal and a safe night. When a storm forces a mysterious young woman to knock on his door, little does he know that this single act of kindness will upend his life forever. For she is no ordinary stranger. She is the daughter of one of the wealthiest men in the country, a girl used to luxury and privileges beyond his imagination. Their worlds could not be more different. Yet fate weaves a tangled path of love, betrayal, and unforeseen consequences that neither could escape. Musa wiped the sweat from his brow as he balanced his tired son, Tay, on his hip, maneuvering through the narrow, litter-strewn streets of the city. Lagos, or rather, the part of Lagos where life seemed to grind endlessly against the poor, was unforgiving, even on a good day. The smell of grilled suya mingled with the scent of burning trash, and the constant honking of cars cut through the thick evening air. For Musa, each step was a reminder of how heavy life had become since his wife died 2 years ago, leaving him alone with Tay in a small, cramped one-room apartment he barely managed to pay for. "Papa," Tay whispered, his voice hoarse and small, "I'm hungry." Musa forced a tired smile. "I know, my son. Soon we'll eat." His words were meant to reassure himself as much as Tay. Musa worked 2 jobs. By day, he carried goods in the open market. By night, he repaired shoes for anyone who could afford his meager services. But money was always scarce. Sometimes, he wondered if life had decided to test him endlessly, like the gods in old Yoruba stories who toyed with humans to prove their resilience. As he approached his building, the sky darkened ominously. Storm clouds rolled in, and a sudden downpour started without warning, soaking him to the bone. He tightened his grip on Tay, shielding him as best he could. That was when he noticed her, standing by a dim streetlight, drenched, shivering, and looking utterly lost. The girl's clothes clung to her, wet and muddy from rain. She was young, perhaps in her early 20s, with eyes that carried both fear and a quiet dignity. She tried to call a cab, but the rain made it impossible. Every driver ignored her, speeding past with their windshield wipers barely cutting through the sheets of rain. Musa hesitated. His instinct was to keep walking. After all, life had taught him to mind his own business. But something about her struck him. Maybe it was a helplessness in her posture, or maybe it was the quiet strength she radiated despite the storm. "Are you okay?" Musa asked, his voice cutting to the sound of rain. She looked up, startled, but managed a small nod. I need shelter, just for the night. Please." Musa's heart clenched. The apartment was tiny, barely enough space for him and Tay, and he had no idea how he could take in a stranger. But the thought of leaving her in the storm, alone, soaked and vulnerable, was unbearable. "Follow me," he said. Inside, the apartment smelled faintly of oil, wet cloth, and the faint smoke from a small cooking stove. Tay squirmed on his hip, rubbing his eyes sleepily. Musa handed the girl an old towel. "Here, dry yourself," he said. She hesitated, but eventually took it, her gratitude evident in the soft curve of her lips. "Thank you," she whispered, almost like a secret. Over the course of the night, Musa prepared the only meal he could, a small pot of rice and beans, seasoned modestly with palm oil and a few spices. They ate in silence at first, the rain hammering against the tin roof above them, creating a rhythm both comforting and tense. "Why are you out there alone?" Musa asked finally, his curiosity getting the better of him. The girl looked down at her plate, twisting it slightly. "It is a long story. I didn't mean to trouble anyone. Everyone needs help sometimes," Musa said, trying to keep his voice gentle, "even if it's just for one night." She nodded, and for a moment, the apartment felt warmer, not because of the tiny heater in the corner, but because of the fragile human connection forming between them. Musa didn't know it then, but this girl, who had entered his life for just a single night, would come to unravel his carefully constructed world. The rain finally slowed by midnight, and the girl had cleaned herself as best she could with a meager water supply. She looked at Musa, a faint smile on her lips. "I should leave," she said softly. Musa nodded, though a part of him felt a pang of loss at the thought of her departure. "The streets are still wet. If you want, you can stay until the morning." She hesitated, then shook her head. No, I must go. But thank you for everything. Before Musa could ask more questions, she was gone, slipping into the shadows like a fleeting dream. The next morning, life resumed its usual rhythm. Musa took Tay to school, worked long hours at the market, and returned home exhausted. And yet, he couldn't shake the image of the girl from his mind. There was something about her, something almost ethereal, that made him feel both hope and unease. Little did he know, she wasn't just any young woman. She was the daughter of Chief Alyamide, one of the wealthiest men in Lagos. She lived in a world of luxury, surrounded by servants and endless privilege, far removed from the struggles of Musa's daily existence. That night in the rain had been an accident, a desperate bid to escape her own suffocating life. But it set in motion a series of events that would intertwine their fates in ways neither could have imagined. Musa had offered shelter out of compassion, out of instinct, and perhaps a little stubborn pride. She had accepted, hiding her true identity with quiet grace. But the universe, as it often does in African tales of old, has a way of balancing scales and testing hearts. And soon, the lives of a poor single father and a millionaire's daughter would collide, with consequences that would ripple across their worlds. Days turned into weeks, but Musa couldn't forget her. He would catch glimpses of her in his dreams, the way she laughed softly, the way her eyes held a mixture of sadness and strength. Tay, too, spoke of her occasionally, asking if she would come back. Musa would smile and shrug, unsure what to say. In the city, whispers of unexpected fortune and scandal began to circulate. Chief Alyamide's daughter had gone missing briefly, a fact the press barely covered. But Musa, immersed in the grind of survival, remained blissfully unaware that the girl who had shared his meal and shelter from the storm was now at the center of a family crisis and a society scandal. And so life continued, until the day the past returned with a vengeance, disguised as hope, heartbreak, and the promise of a future neither Musa nor the girl could have anticipated. Life, for Musa, had always been a battle. Each day brought new trials, new struggles, and yet the rhythm of survival had its own strange comfort. But since that stormy night, the memory of the girl lingered like a stubborn drumbeat in his mind, subtle yet insistent. He found himself scanning the streets, half expecting to see her silhouette in the distance, half expecting to be disappointed. Tay, his small son, was a constant reminder of why he persevered. Every morning, Musa walked him to the crowded school in the heart of the neighborhood. The narrow lanes packed with street vendors, beggars, and children running barefoot across broken sidewalks. Tay's small fingers clutched his father's hand tightly as they navigated the chaos, asking questions in his innocent voice. "Papa, will she come back?" Musa paused, looking down at his son's hopeful eyes. "I don't know, Tay. Maybe someday." The boy's shoulders slumped, disappointment settling in for a moment, before the resilience of youth returned, and he ran ahead to greet his friends. Musa's days blurred together. By morning, he hawked goods in the crowded market, roasted yams, cassava, and groundnuts. By afternoon, he worked tirelessly repairing shoes, threading needles through leather with precision honed over years. Nights were spent cooking simple meals, helping Tay with homework, and praying quietly in the dim glow of their small apartment. And yet, amidst the monotony, a ripple of change had begun. One evening, as Musa returned from the market, he found a small envelope slipped under the door. Curiosity piqued. He bent down and picked it up. The handwriting was elegant, almost foreign, and the paper smelled faintly of expensive perfume. He opened it slowly. Inside, a note read, "Thank you for your kindness. I am safe now. I will never forget you. Hey!" Musa's brow furrowed. Hey! Could it be her? His heart pounded in a way he hadn't felt in years. Tay, sensing his father's excitement, peeked over his shoulder. "Papa? Someone left a note, my son. Someone who matters," Musa replied, unsure how to explain the strange mixture of hope and fear swirling inside him. Weeks passed. Musa tried to return to his normal rhythm, but the city seemed different now. Every stranger, every turn of the street reminded him of that night. And then, one morning, the world of privilege and wealth intruded into his humble life in a most unexpected way. A sleek, black Mercedes rolled slowly past the apartment, Its tinted windows reflected the rising sun, and its polished chrome glimmered against the faded walls of Musa's building. The car stopped abruptly in front of the gate. Musa watched in disbelief as a young man in an impeccably tailored suit stepped out, followed by two men in formal attire carrying briefcases. "Are you Musa?" the man asked, his voice calm but firm. "Yes, that's me," Musa said cautiously. The man handed him a card. It read, "On behalf of Chief Alyamide, your assistance to his daughter has not gone unnoticed. You are requested to meet with us." Musa's jaw dropped. His mind raced. Millionaire? Chief Alyamide? The girl, it had been her. The realization crashed over him with both shock and disbelief. The meeting took place in a luxurious office overlooking the city. Marble floors gleamed under the bright lights, and the walls were adorned with expensive paintings depicting African landscapes and cityscapes in vivid colors. Musa felt painfully aware of his worn clothes, the roughness of his hands, the lingering scent of sweat and palm oil. The girl stood there, elegant and poised, yet with a warmth in her eyes that immediately erased the stiffness between them. "Musa," she said softly, "I owe you more than I can ever say." He swallowed hard. "You're Chief Alyamide's daughter." She nodded, a shadow of a smile crossing her face. "Yes, but tonight, in that storm, I was just a girl in need of help. And you were there without question. No judgment, no hesitation. Just kindness." Musa felt a strange lump in his throat. I didn't know. I didn't know who you were." "I know," she said gently, "and that's why I'm here. My father wishes to reward you, but I wanted to see you first." Over the following days, Musa found himself drawn into a world he had never imagined, a world of opulence, wealth, and opportunity. Chief Alyamide was generous, offering him financial assistance, a business opportunity, even a modest apartment in a safer part of the city. Musa was hesitant at first, uncomfortable with the sudden attention, the attention of someone so far removed from his reality. But as he spent more time with her, her real name was Amina, he discovered something unexpected, a connection that transcended wealth, class, and circumstance. She was bright, compassionate, and surprisingly down-to-earth despite her upbringing. They walked together through city parks, sampled street food together, and sometimes simply sat in silence, listening to the hum of Lagos life around them. Yet, as with all tales intertwined with power and wealth, complications were inevitable. Chief Alyamide's other children, jealous of the attention Amina had been giving Musa, began to stir trouble. They whispered rumors, spread lies, and tried to convince their father that Musa was taking advantage of his daughter. The social divide was palpable, and Musa felt the sting of judgment more than once. "I don't care about their money," Musa confessed one night, holding Tay close as they sat under the dim light of their apartment. "I don't even know what I want from this, but I know I don't want to hurt anyone, and I certainly don't want to lose her." Tay looked up with wide eyes. "Papa, you like her, don't you?" Musa smiled weakly. "I think I do, my son. I think I really do." The days that followed were a dance of emotion. Hope, fear, love, and resentment all mingled together. Amina tried to navigate her own family's expectations while honoring the gratitude and growing affection she felt toward Musa. He, on the other hand, struggled with the reality of fitting into a world so foreign, so intimidating, yet so tantalizingly close. And then the first betrayal struck. One evening, Musa returned to his apartment to find it ransacked. Papers scattered, his modest savings gone, Tay shaken and frightened. A note lay on the table, smudged with haste. "Stay away from her, or you'll regret it." Musa's blood ran cold. He realized that their budding connection was threatening something far bigger than he had anticipated. The city, the family, even the societal divide, they were all obstacles. Yet, in that moment, standing amidst the chaos, Musa felt a strange resolve. He would not be intimidated. He would protect Tay, and he would protect Amina, even if the cost was everything he had. The storm that had brought Amina into his life once had passed physically, but metaphorically, the clouds were gathering once again. Threats, jealousy, and the complexities of love and class would test them both in ways neither was prepared for. Yet, amidst the struggle, a fragile seed of hope had taken root. One night in the rain had become the catalyst for a story neither of them could ignore, a story of courage, love, and the defiance of fate. The days grew heavier for Musa. Life in the city, already unrelenting, seemed to have grown more complex since Amina had re-entered his world. The ransacking of his apartment was only the beginning. He began noticing strange cars lingering outside the building, men in suits who watched him silently from across the street. Whispers traveled fast in Lagos neighborhoods, and soon he found himself the subject of rumors. But none of that mattered as much as Amina. She had visited him that evening after the attack, carrying groceries, and her presence alone had a way of calming the storm inside him. Her eyes, warm and determined, met his with quiet assurance. "You need to know something," she said softly, setting the bags down. "This isn't just about us, Musa. My family, they are powerful. Some of them will stop at nothing to separate us." Musa felt a knot tighten in his chest. "I don't care about power or wealth," he said, gripping her hand gently. "I care about you and Tay." Amina's lips curved into a sad smile. "I know, and that's what makes this so difficult. They see you as unworthy. They'll try everything to prove it." For Musa, unworthiness was a word he knew intimately. A poor single father, barely scraping by, suddenly thrust into a world of mansions, expensive cars, and intricate social hierarchies. He had never felt so exposed, so fragile. Yet the more he looked at Amina, the more he realized he could not retreat. In the following weeks, Musa began to navigate the treacherous waters of this new reality. Chief Al-Yamid remained supportive, yet the pressure from relatives and society was palpable. Cousins and siblings who had never spared him a glance were now quick to offer unsolicited advice, often wrapped in veiled threats. "You are lucky he even remembers your name, Musa," Amina's cousin, Tulu, said one evening during a formal dinner at the Al-Yamid mansion. His voice dripped with disdain, and he circled Musa like a predator. "Do you even know how dangerous it is for someone like you to get involved with her?" Musa remained calm, though the tension in his chest grew. "I know enough to understand that my intentions are honest. That should be all that matters." Tolu sneered. "In our world, honesty means nothing without pedigree and wealth. You may be kind, Musa, but kindness alone does not earn respect here." Amina, noticing the rising tension, stood up. "Enough, Tolu. Musa has done nothing wrong. He saved me when I needed help. That counts for more than anything you or anyone else can say." The confrontation left Musa shaken, but strangely invigorated. For the first time in years, he felt that the strength of his character mattered, that integrity was more than a word. It was his armor. Amidst the conflict, Musa and Amina found brief moments of tenderness. They would take long walks through the quieter streets of the city, enjoying simple meals from street vendors, or sit on the old pier near the river, watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the water in shades of gold and crimson. One such evening, as the city hummed around them, Amina spoke quietly. "Musa, sometimes I feel trapped. My life has been carefully orchestrated by others, my father, my relatives, society, and yet when I'm with you, I feel free. I feel like I can be myself." Musa's hand found hers. "Then don't let anyone take that from you. We can fight together." Their connection deepened, subtle but undeniable, forming a bond that defied societal expectations. And yet, shadows lingered. The betrayal they faced came not just from wealth or pride, but from love itself. Amina's older brother, Adideo, had been secretly engaged in a business arrangement with a wealthy socialite, and he saw Musa as a threat to both family honor and his own plans. One night, he hired men to confront Musa in his modest apartment, hoping to intimidate him. Musa, however, was prepared. The confrontation ended not in violence, but in a tense standoff that left both parties aware that Musa would not be easily cowed. The incident earned him grudging respect from some of Amina's relatives, but also intensified the scrutiny. In the midst of this, Tay began to blossom in ways Musa hadn't expected. The boy, once quiet and reserved, now smiled more readily, his laughter ringing to the apartment like music. Amina had become a beacon of light in his life, reading stories to him, teaching him new words, and sharing moments of joy that Musa had feared were lost forever. Yet, The question of trust loomed large. Musa knew that Amina had secrets she had yet to reveal. He sensed in the way she sometimes stared out the window late at night, lost in thought, as if carrying burdens too heavy to share. "I need to tell you something," she admitted one evening, sitting beside him on the worn sofa. "There are aspects of my life, my past, that I've kept hidden. I didn't mean to deceive you, Musa. I only wanted one night of honesty and safety." Musa nodded, his eyes gentle. "Whatever it is, we can face it together. You saved me that night in the rain. Now I'll stand by you." Amina exhaled, the weight of her secrets pressing down. "I was promised to someone else, Musa. My family, they arranged it. I ran because I didn't want to be forced into a life I couldn't choose. That night, meeting you, it changed everything." Musa's heart ached at her words. Love, he realized, was often entwined with sacrifice and pain. Then we fight for what we want, not for what others expect. But the city and the family, they were entangled and had other plans. Rumors spread, social pressures mounted, and whispers of scandal threatened to dismantle the fragile hope they had built. Even Chief Al-Yamid's influence could not shield them entirely from judgment or jealousy. In the village, Musa's relatives watched with curiosity and concern. They could not fathom how their humble kin had become involved in a world of wealth, influence, and social intrigue. Some rejoiced, hoping for opportunities. Others feared humiliation. The contrast between his simple past and the complicated present was stark. Yet, amidst the struggle, small victories shone through. Amina's presence brought joy to Musa's life in ways he had forgotten were possible. The boys' laughter, the quiet moments shared over food or storytelling, and the rare smiles on Amina's face reminded him why he endured, why he fought, and why he dared to hope. One evening, as they sat on the pier watching the reflection of the city lights on the water, Amina rested her head on Musa's shoulder. "I've never known love like this," she whispered. "Not the kind measured by wealth, but the kind that survives storms, poverty, and fear. You make me feel alive." Musa kissed the top of her head gently. "And you give me hope I thought was lost. We'll find a way through all of this together." But life, as it often does in African stories of fate and fortune, was never so simple. Shadows from the past, societal expectations, and family machinations loomed large. The journey of love and loyalty had only begun, and the challenges ahead promised heartbreak, redemption, and tests of courage that would define them both. The night drew to a close, but the tension between destiny and desire lingered. Musa understood that love, while powerful, was never free from struggle, and in that understanding, a seed of resilience grew, one that would carry him through the storms yet to come. The city felt heavier than usual that morning, as if Lagos itself held its breath. Musa awoke to the distant sound of car horns, children playing in the streets, and the faint call of a market vendor hawking fresh bread. Yet inside him a storm brewed. Amina had sent word that her father wished to see him immediately at the mansion. He didn't know whether to feel apprehensive or honored. Tay, rubbing sleep from his eyes, looked at Musa with innocent curiosity. "Papa, is everything okay?" Musa knelt to meet his son's gaze. "We're going to see someone important today, Tay. Don't worry. Everything will be fine." But even as he spoke, he could feel the weight of expectation pressing on him. A poor single father, standing on the threshold of immense wealth, love, and family intrigue. This was no ordinary meeting. The mansion loomed large, white walls gleaming under the morning sun. Expensive cars lined the driveway, and polished floors reflected perfection of a world far removed from the crowded streets Musa called home. Chief Al-Yamid greeted him warmly, a glint of pride and concern in his eyes. "Musa," he said, his deep voice carrying authority yet tempered with warmth, "you've proven yourself more than I could have imagined, but life is not without its tests." Musa nodded respectfully, unsure of what was to come. Amina appeared beside her father, radiant in a simple dress that belied her wealth. Her eyes held a mixture of hope and determination. "Papa, Musa has risked so much for me. He is honest, kind, everything I could have hoped for." Chief Al-Yamid's gaze softened, yet a shadow of doubt lingered. He turned to Musa. "Do you understand the responsibilities that come with being part of this family? The scrutiny, the expectations?" Musa swallowed. Yes, sir. But I also know that life has taught me resilience, responsibility, and love. That is all I bring. A tense silence followed. The elder's eyes studied Musa, piercing yet fair, as if weighing not only his words but his very soul. Finally, he nodded. Then you shall have your chance. But be warned, this path will not be easy. There will be envy, betrayal, and tests of character. Do you accept? I do, Musa said firmly. The relief in Amina's eyes was palpable. She grasped his hand gently, a silent promise of shared courage. In the weeks that followed, Musa began integrating into a world of wealth without losing his roots. He started a small business with guidance from Chief Alimide, teaching young people from his neighborhood trade skills, sharing knowledge, and creating opportunities. The community that had once looked down on him now watched in awe as Musa navigated both worlds with humility and strength. Yet, no story of love and fortune is complete without its trials. Adideo, Amina's older brother, refused to accept Musa. He tried every scheme to discredit him, spreading false rumors, manipulating business dealings, and even attempting to turn Amina's father against him. One night, Musa confronted Adideo on the quiet balcony of the mansion, the city lights sparkling like distant stars below. "Why won't you leave us alone?" Musa demanded. "What has love ever done to you?" Adideo sneered. "You don't understand, Musa. This family has power, legacy, things you could never dream of. You threaten everything." Musa's eyes hardened. "The only thing I threaten is your ignorance of what it means to care, to protect, to be honest." That night, the confrontation ended not with fists, but with a quiet realization. Adideo saw in Musa a steadfastness he could not undermine. For the first time, he understood that wealth alone did not command respect or loyalty. Character did. Meanwhile, Amina and Musa's bond deepened. Their love was no longer just a secret shared in stolen moments. It became a beacon for those around them, a testament to hope triumphing over adversity. Even Tay, once shy and hesitant, blossomed under the care and affection of both his father and Amina, his laughter echoing through both the modest apartment and the mansion's grand halls. But life, as always, tested them one final time. A sudden scandal erupted in the press. An anonymous story about Millionaire's daughter involved with a street man made headlines, threatening to destroy reputations and force separation. The public outcry was immense, and for a moment, even Chief Alimide hesitated. Amina, however, stood firm. "I choose Musa. Not wealth, not opinion, not expectation. I choose love." Her declaration echoed across the family and the city, forcing a reckoning. Those who had plotted against them were forced to reconsider their values, and even the skeptical relatives recognized that true love, integrity, and courage cannot be bought. Musa, ever humble, turned to his son and Amina one evening on the modest pier, where so many conversations had shaped their future. "Life has given us storms, yes," he said, his voice gentle but firm, "but also gave us each other. That is what matters. No wealth, no envy, no power can ever take that away." Amina rested her head on his shoulder. Tay nestled between them, and the city around them seemed to pause in quiet acknowledgement. In that moment, they had survived betrayal, temptation, societal pressure, and fear. What remained was love, unbroken and resolute, and the promise of a future they would build together. Time passed. Musa's business grew, empowering the local youth. Amina balanced her societal obligations with a life rooted in compassion. Tay thrived, surrounded by warmth and guidance. And though the city continued its relentless pace, the small family had found a pocket of peace, a testament to resilience, courage, and the transformative power of kindness. In the end, the night that started in a storm, when a poor single father offered shelter to a mysterious young woman, became the origin of a journey neither of them could have foreseen. A journey defined by hope, heartbreak, triumph, and the undeniable truth that sometimes the smallest act of compassion can change destinies forever. Musa looked out at the horizon, Amina by his side, Tay's hand in his. The world was vast, unpredictable, and often cruel, but together they had weathered the storm, and for the first time in a long time, the future looked bright.